This camera is probably among the cheapest, fully mechanical, well-built rangefinder film cameras you can get. Luckily, copies of this camera are widely available, so we don't need to worry about a price surge. This is the Zorki 4K, a Leica copy manufactured by a Russian factory in Krasnogorsk near Moscow, which specialized in optical technology. During the Soviet period, the company was called Krasnogorsk Mechanical Works, or Krasnogorsky Mechanizsky Zavod, or known as KMZ. The first generation of Zorki, or the original Zorki introduced in 1948, was intended to be an exact copy of the 1932 Leica 2 rangefinder. And in 1955, the Zorki S was introduced, adding flash synchronization. The Zorki 2, introduced in 1954, is similar to the original Zorki but has a better rewind mechanism, a self-timer, and strap lungs. A later model with a flash synchronization is called the Zorki 2S. Following this, the Zorki 3, released in 1951, is somewhat similar to the Leica 3. It also features a new mechanism for slow shutter speeds with a separate selector dial on the front of the camera. However, this mechanism was unreliable, leading to the improved Zorki 3M in 1954, also produced in 1955, which combines all the shutter speeds onto a single dial. The Zorki 4, introduced in 1956, is a Zorki 3S with the addition of a self-timer, and the Zorki 4K is essentially the same but uses an advanced lever instead of the traditional wind knob. Between the Zorki 4 and Zorki 4K, there are many different Zorki series, including Zorki 5, Zorki 6, Mir, Zorki 10, 11, and 12. The Zorki 4K is the last Zorki camera line. From the serial number here, we know that this particular copy was assembled in 1973. Zorki 4K or Zorki 4 is probably the most affordable option in terms of Leica M film camera alternatives. Compared to the Canon P or even the Nikon S2, this camera is a budget winner. Film rolls are already expensive, and I don't want to spend too much on the camera. The camera will be useless with those films, so my choice ended with this Zorki 4K. What I'm always amazed by with this kind of vintage camera is their build quality. Remember, Zorki was intended to be a Leica copy, or at least a Leica alternative. I can confidently say that this camera is robust. It is heavy and feel premium. Of course, I wouldn't dare to compare it with a Leica. For the price range between $40 to $150 with the lens, I think this camera is worth all the money. I believe this camera is widely available on eBay in Europe and in the US. I got help from a friend to get this camera from Germany in excellent cosmetic condition. This camera is fully mechanical. You don't need any batteries for this camera to operate. It just works on its own. I'm happy that this camera does not have a light meter, as most light meter on these vintage cameras have failed today. When it comes to film cameras, I always admire fully mechanical cameras. In the era of everything going digital and electronic, I will still prefer things that operate mechanically. For example, I miss those old days when you had to manually open your car window by cranking the knob. Electronics are prone to breaking. The more electronics you have in your devices, the more difficult they are to repair, including cameras. I always had this weird thinking about how the more we rely on electronics, the more we are prone to being hacked. Whether it's your electronic vehicles, your door lock, your CCTV cameras, and so on. So I think sticking to things that operate mechanically is not a bad choice. This camera comes with an Industar 50 f3.5. It's not a very special lens, but it is a decent one. Some people think that this lens performs best for portraits. However, with f3.5 being the widest aperture and f16 being the smallest aperture, you have limitations there. But I'm okay with it. My life has been full of lessons regarding limitations. Limitations makes you creative, and oftentimes easiness makes us lazy and spoiled. The LTM mount or Leica thread mount was quite common in those days, so you have a wide range of options in terms of lenses. Some of them have a very good reputation, like the Canon lens 50mm f1.4 LTM lens, commonly known as the Japanese Somilux. When it comes to film photography, I think lenses are the most important factor if you want to have good results. I mean, you don't have sensors in this kind of camera. Instead, we use film. What the camera body does is essentially control the focus distance and the shutter speed. This camera, I think, will do well in both. So if you really want to invest in film photography, I think hunting for a decent lens is more important than, say, dreaming of buying a Leica M6 body. Since you can also adapt LTM lenses to your digital cameras, it will always be a win. Decent lenses for both kinds of photography. If I ever wanted to buy a Leica, I would buy their lenses first instead of their camera body. This way I can adapt the lenses to all of my interchangeable lens cameras and do some experiments with them. Of course, we want to have both an excellent camera and lens, but not many of us have the kind of purchasing capability. At the front of the camera, you have the rangefinder, which you can find inside a rangefinder patch that is moved by this pin that sits behind the lens. This pin will move as you change your distance on your lens. And that is how the focusing on this camera works. You need to make sure that this pin bounces back when you push it. Sometimes it gets stuck, so you just need to clean it a bit on the inside carefully using your finger until the pin runs smoothly. Here you have a self-timer. At the top you have an advanced lever. On top of it you have a film counter that needs to be reset manually. Here you have the shutter, which has a locking mechanism when you want to rewind your film. Now this is the shutter speed selector. The most important rule in Zorki cameras is to always cock the shutter first before you change the shutter speed. And do not try to go from 1 to 1/30th, but from B to 1/30th instead, as you will damage the camera. And this is the film rewind knob. You just need to pull it and start rewinding. The viewfinder is small but bright. You also have a diopter adjustment here, which makes it easy for those of us who wear glasses. Now, this back plate is removable through the locking mechanism on the bottom. I always prefer to have the whole back of the camera removed like this instead of having a hinge on the side and opening the back of the camera on the side like my broken Canon DMI EE17. I think the removable back design is a champion in film cameras in terms of durability, contributing to the longer lifespan of camera, I think. Film loading is easy, as you can see on the screen. You just need to make sure that your shutter is not in a lock position. I loaded a roll of Kodak Color Plus and Ilford Pan 400 to test the camera. Since the camera does not have a light meter, I use a light meter app on my phone. As you can see, I messed up a lot of shots here. This camera will last forever if you take good care of it. Thanks to the lack of electronics, if you want to store this camera, you need to make sure that the shutter is fired, so the camera does not keep itself in tension. With more than 2 million units produced, the Zorki 4 is the most successful Zorki model and is considered one of the best Russian cameras, despite the self-timer and slow shutter speeds being unreliable. My only complaint about this camera is the lack of strap lungs. If you want to attach a strap, you can do so by adding external strap lungs on the bottom of the tripod screw, or you can use a leather case that has strap lungs on each side. Personally, I like to keep it simple, no strap, and hold it tight so I do not drop the camera. If you want more top secret hacks and tricks to transform your ancient cameras into Hollywood superstars, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join me on this photographic roller coaster. Until next time, keep snapping and keep it budget tight. Au revoir.